Hello, everyone. Welcome to another BTSE Twitter AMA space. I'd like to introduce myself before we get started. My name is Hai. I'm a senior marketing manager here at BTSE. For all of you who haven't heard of BTSE, we're a leading cryptocurrency exchange and B2B white label solutions provider. Our platform offers both spot and futures trading and as well as staking products and easy fiat on and off ramps. We're always on the lookout for exciting projects to list, and we strive to provide the best experience for our users. First off, I wanted to thank everyone for joining and taking part in today's AMA with Klaytn. Today, I'm excited to welcome our guest, John Cho, Head of Marketing at Klaytn. He'll be talking to us about Klaytn and the project's roadmap for the future. To start off, let's welcome John Cho to the Twitter space. Hey, John, it's a pleasure to meet you. Can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, likewise. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. So just a quick kind of like overview of who I am. My name is John Cho. I'm currently the head of marketing at the Klaytn Foundation. I've been with Klaytn since 2019, so it's been a while. I come from a traditional corporate background, started out in business strategy, and then moved on to data marketing, and then to crypto, I guess. It's the same thing, like it is for like most of people in the industry. But I first bought into Bitcoin in like 2013. That's when my interest in crypto got piqued, and then started really deep diving into crypto around when Ethereum was released back in 2014. And yeah, I mean, I was just an enthusiast, but I was offered an opportunity to work with Klaytn again back in 2019, and decided to join and have not looked back since.
That's great. Thanks for the introduction. We're looking forward to getting to know you guys a little bit better and what you guys are up to. So we'll get started. What can you briefly introduce about Klaytn and about your project?
Yeah, so Klaytn is first and foremost an L1 blockchain. So we have our own ecosystem. We have our own projects on top built on top of Klaytn. We have our developer community. We have our retail community, of course. But Klaytn stands out from the other L1s in the space in the fact that it was actually founded and funded as a part of the Kakao Group. I'm going to assume that a lot of the listeners here tonight aren't familiar with Kakao Group, but basically the Kakao Group, if you think of Kakao as the WeChat of South Korea. So it's a messenger super app with a 98% market share. So it originally started out as a mobile messenger application, but now it's evolved into like an all-encompassing super app, like everything from ride hailing. We have our own bank. We have our own payment system. So it's basically an all-encompassing lifestyle platform that, again, 90% of the Korean population uses every day. Klaytn was founded and funded as part of the Kakao Group. And the reason for this was, it's actually an interesting story. So back in 2018, maybe 2017 even, Kakao was exploring blockchain technology because they wanted an open source infrastructure that they could leverage to expand their services globally. So they explored Ethereum, they explored the other L1s of the time, but none really had the technical specs and the performance required to provide that really seamless and streamlined, quote unquote, Web 2 experience. So they needed a chain that had low latency. They needed a chain that had, very UX friendly features at its core. So Kakao decided to create their own blockchain, which became Klaytn. So Klaytn, from its inception, was designed for mainstream applications and mass adoption, so scalability, performance, and on the I guess the usability side, like developer experience is a huge part of what we do. We have an insane range of SDKs available to developers. Also, the project onboarding process. We've worked really hard over the last 4 years to streamline all aspects of the technology and the ecosystem. And just a quick overview in numbers, there are around 280 live services on Klaytn at the moment. We're ranked 14th in terms of TVL. We're also ranked 14th in terms of overall on-chain trading volumes. We average around 400,000 transactions a day, with an average of around 50 to 60,000 active addresses daily. So we are a pretty significant ecosystem.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Thanks for that brief introduction. What did you find that was lacking in the crypto ecosystem, and how does Klaytn intend to fill that void?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this kind of relates back to, the inception of Klaytn as well. So first and foremost, we wanted to be able to build a blockchain that really emphasized stability and performance, because, we, at the very least in South Korea and also, in other regions as well, you have a lot of legacy traditional Web 2, technology companies and also financial institutions exploring blockchain technology. But, there are a couple of hurdles there. Like, there's the regulatory side, of course, but then there's also the performance side because, I mean, coming from like a traditional legacy Web 2 service provider, I mean, you want the same kind of user experience, the same kind of performance that, users are used to on traditional, Web 2 services on blockchain, for blockchain services as well. But, it's still the case that, there is a gap between, the traditional kind of like, very streamlined user experience that you find with, apps like Facebook and Instagram, and then, blockchain-based Web3 applications. So for us, we wanted to really minimize that gap by providing the performance and stability that, applications designed for mass users will require. So at the moment, that kind of legacy, that focus on performance still holds strong today. Klaytn actually boasts the lowest latency of all major chains at the moment. So we have a latency of just 2.1 seconds. And also we boast an uptime of 99.8% since, our genesis back in 2019. Mm-hmm. And this, performance and stability, focus on performance stability is also reflected in our governance council. Our governance council is a group of entities that validate and secure the network. So we have, of course, your major crypto players like Binance and 1inch as part of the Klaytn governance council, but also you have your more legacy traditional companies like, for example, LG Electronics was recently a part of the until recently was part of the governance council. You have Kakao, of course, and you have like, the Korean Economic Daily, which is like the largest media conglomerate in Korea. So that focus on, again, performance stability is a, big part of what we do to kind of fill that void in the blockchain space. And just to touch on this, DX, the developer experience, and UX is also a big part of what we try to how we try to differentiate ourselves between other blockchains. So the developer experience is basically best in class. We have again one of the most comprehensive collections of SDKs. For example, we just recently released what we call the Metaverse Knowledge Kit, which is basically a one-stop shop of all the documentation, all the SDKs, all the API, specifications that one would need to create a decentralized 3D virtual space on Klaytn. And on the UX side, so we've had, core features at a protocol level, since 2019 that are only being implemented in L1s today. Like, for example, recently at ETH Denver, account abstraction. EIP 4337 was passed and it received a lot of attention. So things like, fee delegation, on-chain management, private keys, but these are actually things that we've had since 2019. So yeah, I think, again, performance, stability, DX, UX are how we kind of like, set ourselves aside from the rest of the L1s out there.
That was great. Thanks, John. That was really informative. We'll touch on some of that stuff a little bit later on. But in your own words, what do you think Klaytn's main value proposition is to the blockchain industry?
Yeah, I mean, this is just an extension of what I've just been discussing, I guess. I mean, as a layer one blockchain, one of the most comprehensive set of features, functionality, and tools for developers to create those user experiences that mainstream users are used to, like by a traditional Web 2, applications and services. So something that is truly user oriented and something, it's a chain that's really, set up to become like a foundational technology layer for when the blockchain goes mainstream, I think.
Yeah. All right, great. Let's talk about your tokenomics. What can you tell us about the Klay token and its utility in the ecosystem?
Yeah. So for those out there that don't know, Klay is the native token of the Klaytn ecosystem. So the utility of Klay covers all facets of the ecosystem, from governance to network participation incentives, powering the core token economy, acting as basically the de facto digital currency within the network. And so we've been working really, really hard to optimize the tokenomics of Klay, because I'm sure you remember, like back in the day, like in 2017, 2018, you would have developers talk about how, the price of token was not important. Price isn't important. It's about development. Price will follow and so on. But, I think we're now in a place where we've realized that price does play a factor in the health of an ecosystem. But that said, we're not in a position to, manipulate the price or trade ourselves. So we went back to the drawing board and thought about ways we could kind of create value for the token at a protocol and technology level. So we passed a bunch of governance proposals starting last year. Like, for example, the inflation rate was reduced by 30%. There's a big, and also recently, and just kind of going off on a tangent, but ever since Alameda and FTX, there's been a lot of focus, especially within the technical analysis and fundamental analysis traders, that kind of ratio between FDV and the circulating market cap, right? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to really reduce that ratio risk, and so we have a hard fork coming up on April 17th, which is this Monday. Binance also announced their support for the hard fork, which will activate a 50% burn of the total supply. So the Core A hard fork, again, set to activate April 17th, this Monday, will literally burn 50% of the total supply. So right now, there's around 11 billion in total supply of the Klay token. Come Monday, around 5 billion, 5.2 billion to be exact, will be burnt. So almost 50% of the total supply will be taken out. And we're doing that because we wanted to reduce that, ratio risk between FTB and circulating market cap. The remaining 2 billion uncirculating supply will also be burnt over the next 3 years as well.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. So moving on a little bit more, we heard a little bit about Klaytn's recent roadmap launch. Can you tell us a little more about your 2023 roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we find that a lot of roadmaps with other, projects or layer ones, tend to kind of be very meta driven or trends driven. But we wanted to set our own kind of strategic framework that we could stick by for the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. Yeah. So what we did was we created what we call the vision map. So when we were creating the vision map, we kind of went back to the drawing board again to kind of think about where do we want to be in 10 years? Where do we want to be in a decade? And for us, being the de facto chain once blockchain technology becomes mainstream is one of our key goals, and has been for the last 4 years. So we decided, then how do you define mass adoption? So we created a strategic framework we called the mass adoption trifecta, and there are 3 key strategic pillars to this. So sustainability, verifiability, and collectiveness, which is another word for community. So in terms of sustainability, you need an ecosystem that's going to be around in 5 to 10 years time. So again, making sure the tokenomics are sustainable, making sure the tokenomics are designed to create value for the token, making sure the network is robust by establishing a very streamlined onboarding process. And also, verifiability is a concept that's become very important. So we all know that, one of the core value propositions of blockchain technology is trustless transactions, right? But it's not enough to be trustless these days. You need to be able to verify the counterparties as well on chain. So, being able to verify what happens on chain, not just from the transactions, is one of our kind of key goals as well to become a mainstream blockchain for the future. So we're, for example, decentralizing our governance. Right now, governance is managed and directed by the Governance Council. Again, an entity of both traditional and crypto players. But we're actually going to be opening up membership to the Governance Council. We just today, our KGP 7 governance proposal was passed, which now opens up, the Governance Council to new members, outside members. And also, strengthening transparency. So any kind of Klay expenditure from the treasury, the foundation treasury, will be all on chain and will be public information. And again, the community, of course, is something that we can't that has to be a part of this to make it all work. So the community will be able to also be directly involved in governance decisions, because all governance votes and proposals will now be moved on chain starting May.
Great. Okay. So what are the upcoming upgrades and changes on Klaytn's blockchain itself?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, one of the biggest changes is, previously, governance, again, directed and steered by the Governance Council, now is all going to be on chain. So starting in early May, governance will be on chain. So that's a big kind of change. Also, our de facto browser extension wallet, Kakao, will be upgraded and will now include native swap functionality. So we're partnering with 1inch and Swap Scanner to include native swap functionality within the wallet, which will make the user experience a lot more streamlined. The tokenomics will be updated come Monday. So come Monday, 50% of the Klay token supply will be burned, establishing a much more sustainable tokenomics and token economy. And one of the biggest changes coming up is, up until now, all the validators were operated and run by the Governance Council. So what does that mean? That meant that all of the block rewards were limited just to the Governance Council members who are running the validators. But come this year, we'll be introducing permissionless validators into the network. So now the community and anyone can share in the network incentives by operating a validator node for Klaytn. And a bunch of technical stuff. For example, the upcoming Core hard fork on Monday will increase maximum transaction sizes. We'll be introducing new APIs to read governance parameters. Like I mentioned briefly, all our treasury and ecosystem funds will now move on chain. And some of the more kind of niche but really exciting upgrades coming up is we'll be introducing a Web3 social infrastructure at a protocol level to Klaytn. So basically, infrastructure that will decentralize your social graph. So that's something that's really interesting. That's coming up very soon. And finally, I really have to mention this, but you have chains like Avalanche where they have their subnets. Ethereum has L2s and L3s and so on. But Klaytn has had its own side chains and server chains since 2019. So there's a bunch of big entities leveraging our service chains or side chains. It gives them more control, privacy over the transactions. But coming very soon, we'll be launching our native trustless bridge between the service chains and the mainnet. So now service chains will be able to access liquidity on the mainnet. That's really exciting. Opens up a lot of new opportunities, especially for our game partners who run their own service chains.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so I see. I've heard a lot about your future plans in the next 10 years or a century or so. So that being said, with Klaytn and the blockchain landscape, how do you think it will evolve in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good question. The thing is, and this is something that we've been discussing a lot internally over the last couple of months, but, back 2019, 2020, there was a lot of, discussions within the industry about, blockchain going mainstream. Blockchain will eliminate inefficiencies, it'll optimize a lot of infrastructure and so on. And the thing is, the tech is there. The tech is there, and it's ready to be, ready to be launched and integrated into legacy infrastructure. But it's the regulatory landscape that's been holding everything back. Being honest, right? And for example, in the US, to be honest, I don't know what they're trying to do right now, like the SEC, the CFTC, the federal government. They don't seem to have a consolidated, policy in terms of digital assets or blockchain technology. So, I mean, and the US, does have a lot of say in terms of global regulatory, policies.
Yeah.
But that said, though, there's been a lot of interesting movement on the East Asian side of things, right? Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong. And there's definitely been a lot more interest from the government and from lawmakers in leveraging blockchain technology. And I think they understand that blockchain technology, that there are a lot of benefits, real tangible benefits to blockchain technology, not just in terms of cryptocurrencies, but in terms of infrastructure. So especially in South Korea here, there's a lot of renewed interest around blockchain technology, leveraging blockchain technology as infrastructure, especially with traditional legacy financial industries. So recently, Korean lawmakers introduced a preliminary, regulatory framework for security tokens, which we're really excited about. And I know Japan recently also, introduced their kind of federal white paper, they call it, Web3 white paper. And Hong Kong also are now are looking to provide more regulatory clarity around, how blockchain infrastructure can be used. So I think, and for us, and also we're preparing for this as well internally from a tech level as well. But I think the tokenization of traditional financial instruments and real world assets will be one of the biggest areas of blockchain expansion. And there are so many benefits of tokenizing assets and traditional financial instruments out there. Eliminating infrastructural inefficiencies. Providing more liquidity, bringing on more liquidity into illiquid markets, eliminating, clearing fees and so on and so forth. So that's something that we're really interested in and are actually really enthusiastically exploring right now. And finally, of course, CBDCs. CBDCs, I think, will come to their own very soon, like it or not. I think they are here to stay. But lucky for us, Klaytn is the chain of choice. We were chosen by the Bank of Korea, which is South Korea's Federal Reserve, as the chain of choice for this CBDC pilot. So we've been working with the Bank of Korea on the Korean won CBDC pilot since 2021. I would say 2020. We do have, because of that, we do have a lot of internal insights into how that's going. And I have to say, I can't reveal too much, but really excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty exciting too. Okay, so pretty much one of the last few questions I have for you. We just touched on your future plans. Do you have any exciting partnerships or events coming up that your users should know about?
See, this is the difficult thing, right? I mean, I would love to be able to speak about, some of our upcoming partnerships and so on. But as you're all very well aware, I mean, these partnerships, they're not ready to go live. They're not ready to be revealed until the ink is completely dry. So I mean, we do have a lot of big partnerships announcements that are coming up. That's all I can say. But I can't discuss them in detail. But these partnerships, cover a variety of verticals, like gaming companies, but also other L1 ecosystems as well. So we're really excited about that. And keep an eye out for these announcements. That'll be that we'll be making over the next couple of weeks and months. And also, of course, if you look at our vision map, we have our entire, all our milestones for the year lined up. So we're on track right now. We're meeting all our milestones. So definitely, first and foremost, I think, making sure all the milestones within our vision map that are met is one of our bigger priorities.
Great. That sounds pretty exciting for all your users and your future coming up. So before we end this segment, I just wanted to ask you, can you share the best ways your communities can learn about your projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the easiest thing is to, follow our official Twitter account at Klaytn_official. And also make sure you visit our newly redesigned Klaytn Foundation website. It's klaytn.foundation. and it's been updated to act as a hub for all our key touch points. So all the latest information and links to all our kind of like, key, online touch points like the developers portal, Klaytn Square, where all the on-chain governance will be taking place. And also coming very soon, we'll be launching and establishing a very special hodlers community. So we've called this quote unquote proof of hodl. So it's basically a community for Klaytn holders, and it's a token gated community. So you'll need to be holding Klaytn Klay, the Klay token, to be able to participate in this community. But once this community is established, there's going to be a lot of exclusive news, events, competitions, and all that stuff happening. So but first and foremost, our Twitter and our website.
Great. Thanks, John. That was a lot of insightful information that we can digest. So that ends that portion of the AMA. I'm going to turn this over to our listeners now for the live AMA session. So we're going to be selecting 4 people from Twitter, and they'll have the questions for you.
Can I go ahead with my question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So my question basically for Klaytn. Since we've been talking basically about the roadmap to blockchain mass adoption, like what are some of the promising technologies that you think will be the next drive to bringing in more users into the blockchain industry? Because considering things like the artificial intelligence and some other upcoming trend, like what are some of the new innovations you think that will lead to the next mass adoption?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I mean, this is just like a personal take, but I think there are kind of like 2 tracks you need to approach that from. So there's the existing crypto enthusiasts, and then you have your mainstream users, mainstream consumers, and so on. So your crypto enthusiasts, they'll always be there. Be it for the technology or the speculative nature of cryptocurrencies, you always have like a growing pool of crypto enthusiasts. But in order for blockchain technology to really kind of like reach that catalyst of being like a mainstream like technology, I think it'll be a little different to what we're used to right now. So it'll be less about, I think, a specific ecosystem around a specific chain, or a token economy around a specific token, but rather we'll see a lot of mainstream adoption of blockchain technology as infrastructure. So basically leveraging blockchain technology to address inefficiencies in existing legacy infrastructure, or maybe like introducing decentralized aspects to certain services. Like for example, how and Meta have stopped their NFT service, I believe, but like how Meta recently introduced like the integration of NFTs to Instagram and Facebook and so on. So that was just a very a very simple high level kind of like integration of Web3 technologies. But again, as infrastructure is how I see real mass adoption kind of like taking place for blockchain technology. Now, the question is then, what role will tokens play in this? I don't know yet. We have to get there first to really figure out what role tokens will play. But yeah, I think infrastructure is probably the way that blockchain technology will reach mass adoption.
Okay, thanks for that answer, John. We'll be moving on to our second question now. It will be from Frankie. Give me a second. Okay, Frankie, what's your question?
Okay, so my question is, I just wanted to know, can you tell me like what are the latest innovations at Klaytn project, and can you tell me like where do you actually see this project in the next 6 to 12 months from now, and who are your potential competitors, and how do you actually intend to actually overcome them?
Yeah. So in terms of innovation, I mean, I discussed this during the during the Q&A with earlier on, but since Genesis, since 2019, our focus has been on being being providing that performance and stability. So again, we are probably the fastest chain in terms of latency, lowest latency out of all the chains, 2.1 seconds. Just want to reiterate that. Stability, we have an uptime of 99.98% since 2019, which is a lot more than any other one of the other chains out there. And if you're a developer, and I'm not saying this because I have a bias. Obviously, I have a bias, but if you're a developer, I have to say that the Klaytn developer community and also the developer experience in terms of the SDKs that we have made available, the developer infrastructure that we have out there is one of the best out there. So basically, everything that you need to build on Klaytn has been provided to you in a really streamlined fashion. So that developer experience for us that we've learned, since Kakao as a company, as a group, as a conglomerate, has been involved in technology since 2007, right? So there's a lot of lessons learned and a lot of experience that we've been able to leverage from that. So, and from that, we've kind of like realize that developer experience is a massively important thing. So a lot of L1s kind of tend to, I guess, miss that aspect of an ecosystem. But for us, that's one of our key differentiating features. It may not be one of the most tangible, most obvious kind of like, differentiation points, especially from like a token holder's perspective. But if you're a developer and you look into Klaytn, I'm sure you'll be able to kind of like realize that. So in 12 months time, 10 years time, at the very least, what I can say is we'll be around, because again, we're backed by one of the biggest, one of, if not the biggest, corporation in South Korea by market capitalization. So we are literally an organization of hundreds of people, all working full time just for Klaytn. So we're one of the biggest projects out there. I mean, there's no risk of the project collapsing or anything like that. So stability, I think, is definitely one of our kind of like core strengths. So 12 months down the road, 10 years down the road, we'll still be around. And our competitors are obviously other L1s, and there's a lot of focus on like layer 2s and layer 3s right now, and ZK and so on. But we're all we're exploring those kind of like new meta technologies as well, technology metas and technology kind of trends as well. But again, we're looking to kind of like stick to what we do best, which is provide a super fast, stable chain, the best tools that developers can have, and also core protocol features that allow developers can leverage to allow users the best experiences as well.
Great. Thanks for your answer, John. Frankie, thanks for your question. We'll be moving on. Quinn, could you ask your question?
All right, thank you very much. It's really an informative and educative AMA session so far. I actually visit your website, and I believe that you guys focus on metaverse and gaming and ecosystem. So I want to know, like, we all know that Web3 projects should be kind of looking more at onboarding Web2 or not crypto users into their ecosystem. So I want to know, how do you plan on providing a user-friendly platform to onboard and attract not crypto users into your ecosystem? And how do you kind of bridge the gap between these Web2 users and the Web3 users into your ecosystem? Thank you.
That is a really good question. And that is probably the subject that I have the most kind of like, amount of discussions with other like, project, teams and developers and so on. So right now, like, for example, I often have conversations with P2E developers about, how they can onboard more mainstream gamers. And then I tell them directly, your game isn't designed for mainstream gamers. Your game is designed for P2E gamers. Your game is designed for Web3 gamers. So at a base level, I think if you really want to be able to kind of like onboard more mainstream users, more quote unquote Web2 users, that needs to happen at a product service level. Everything from the UX, UI, and so on. Like, for example, a big significant portion of the gaming projects on Klaytn are actually AAA gaming studios that have decades of experience in the legacy Web2 gaming industry. And the reason why they build on Klaytn, there are a couple of reasons. So first, none of these games have like P2E models, because I think we're in a stage where now we realize that P2E isn't sustainable, right? It's not a sustainable model. So a lot of these, gaming companies look to implement Web3 functionality from a user experience perspective. So, for example, it's not about allowing airdropping tokens or earning tokens every time you play a game, but more about for example, providing ownership, complete ownership over digital items. So say you're playing Diablo, and you find legendary loot, but that legendary loot is actually tied to Diablo's centralized database, right? It's their asset. It's not yours. If the Diablo database gets deleted, that item is gone forever. But what Korean gaming companies are exploring right now is basically, say it's like an action RPG. You find new loot, like a legendary item. They will give players the option to convert that item into an NFT, so they have full ownership over that item. And what they do with that item is now completely up to the user, right? So it's these kind of service level, product level experiences that will that need to be really I guess upgraded in order to attract more mainstream users. But that said, at a protocol and technology level, the features that we're offering, developers are the reason why we're seeing a lot of legacy entities and companies built on top of Klaytn. For example, again, I briefly mentioned how Ethereum had just now introduced account abstraction. So what account abstraction is basically it's a way of providing a more streamlined user experience for the end user. For example, fee delegation. So what fee delegation means is it offers developers the option to pay for users' fees, right? These are features that Klaytn has had since 2019. Now, for example, Web2 service users, be it Instagram or Web2 games, they're not used to paying gas fees, right? It's a new concept for them. It's a foreign concept for them. So if what a developer can do when they build in Klaytn is to use our technology and actually choose to pay for the gas fees that users generate via transactions. So it's again it's a bit of a chicken and egg kind of thing, but I think the mainstream adoption needs to really kind of start at a service product level, while at the same time chains like Klaytn do offer specific features and functionality that kind of help facilitate that experience.
Wow, that's really nice. I wish you guys best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Quinn. And for our last question, the speaker I picked would be Lost. Could you give us your question for John?
Thank you so much for bringing me up. It's been an informative AMA session. So while this AMA is going on, I visited your website and I noticed the scalability runs 1 transaction per second. So my question is, any plans on increasing the transaction speed in the near future? And also, I would like to know the difficulties and challenges that maybe you are currently facing and how are you planning to overcome them?
Yeah. Again, I'm loving all these questions. Great questions. So right now, our TPS, so transactions per second, is around 4,000. By the way, the Visa and MasterCard network, I think they can process up to 2,000 transactions per second. I could be wrong. But yeah, so we can transact up to 4,000 transactions per second. We have a block time of 1 second. But more importantly, our low latency of 2.1 seconds is due to the fact that we have instant finality. So a block is generated every second, but then, there are chains where they have 1 second block generation times, but the finality is an instant. So finality meaning the actual process when that specific transaction or block is recorded onto the ledger. So, but for us, because we have instant finality, all transactions are processed instantaneously, and so it's less about TPS or block times, but more about things like, again, instant finality, low latencies, and so on. And I think we're in a position where we're strong enough performance-wise to be able to handle Web 2, quote unquote, Web 2 gaming, or like Web 2 social media services. As an example, DeFi Kingdoms, probably one of the biggest kind of Web 3 gaming projects out there, recently migrated over to Klaytn from the Harmony chain. And some of the user feedback that we've been getting has been amazing, because a game like DeFi Kingdoms generates a lot of transactions. So every user instance, every user event generates a transaction. So for that kind of experience to be really streamlined and seamless, you need not just a fast TPS, but also super low latency. So we've been receiving feedback how the experience is actually like playing a game, like a mobile game, right? Despite generating all these transactions every action. So I think we're happy where we are. And I forget the second part of the question. I think challenges. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, every project, every chain has challenges, right? Has challenges. And I think for us, a lot of right now, it's this the market landscape, market condition has made it really difficult for project teams to maintain their projects, because I think a lot of builders came into the Web3 blockchain space in 2020, and they thought it was going to be up only, like up forever kind of thing. So a lot of the treasuries were in their own token, or they didn't manage the treasuries properly, or they didn't have sustainable tokenomics or a token economy. So right now, because of how the market is, it's been really hard for developers to kind of maintain their projects. And this isn't just a Klaytn thing. It's just it's all over the place, I think. So that's the biggest challenge. So that's why for us this year at least at a layer 1 ecosystem level, to create a tokenomics and token economy that's sustainable. And also what we've been doing is we've been working with partners and developers and encouraging them to actually use Klay, the Klay token, as their token of choice within the service, as opposed to minting a new token. And there are various benefits to that. Not just from a Klay token holder's perspective, but from also a project a project and developer's perspective. It puts less burden on on a project to maintain a certain level of value for for their own token. So I mean, yeah, I think biggest challenge is kind of helping developers and projects weather through these current market conditions. But I think we're doing an okay job. We've created kind of ecosystem funds and processes that will kind of help developers and projects secure a bit more runway. So yeah, hopefully things will get a lot better once the market we're back in bull mode.
Wow, that's really nice. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, much appreciated.
All right, thanks, John, for all those answers. That was actually pretty great. Those questions were pretty in depth. So that ends the Twitter segment of this AMA, and we're going to be moving on to the community segment. Here we have 4 questions that we've gotten from our Discord channel. I'll read them out to you, John, and feel free to answer them. So the first question is, since the Oracle network only accepts Klay for its gas fees, driving the greater demand for utility for Klay, every time the Oracle network provides data on the DApp on Klaytn, what percentage of the fees collected will be burned?
Yep, that's an easy one, 50%.
Okay.
So 50% of the fees that are collected will be burned.
All right, great. Second question. How has Klaytn contributed towards the mass adoption of blockchain in the past years? Can you share what developer-friendly environment is provided for the Web3 builder?
I feel like as if I've been like, beating this horse
Yeah.
over the last
We've heard
30,
this
40
over.
minutes. Yeah. So I would refer this person to our dev portal via website for more information.
Okay. And your
Yeah.
2023 roadmap shows that you'll be promoting in the African market. What's your reason for expanding in Africa? Meanwhile, Asia has the most users of online games. Are you expanding globally in the future?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been continuously expanding, our regional coverage, since 2019. We have, enthusiastic communities all over the place. Like, for example, I was just checking our Anchor IPC data the other day, and I mean, obviously the number one, the most traffic is coming from the US, but also from like Taiwan and Germany and Russia and so on. So we do have a really kind of like diverse community already. But that said, we do need to pick our regions of focus. And Africa right now, we don't have the most kind of granular levels of visibility into what we want to do in the region, but we do have partners in Africa. So we actually have a gaming project that is being developed by an African team. So our plan is to kind of continue kind of engaging with them a bit more in the future to really explore potential opportunities in Africa.
Yeah.
And again, we're always continuing expanding our reach and so on. But this year, I think there's going to be a lot of focus in Vietnam, because I think everybody here on the call and in the room realizes Vietnam is like one of the kind of like biggest kind of like up and coming Web3 regions in the world. So definitely working to establish a big presence there.
Okay, great. And the last question, given the fast evolving nature of the blockchain industry, how does Klaytn plan on staying ahead of the curve and remain competitive for a long time? What implications does this have for your roadmap to mass adoption?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really great question. And the thing is, at a base level, at a foundational level, I mean, you would probably get the same answers, be on point with all the latest technology trends, make sure you have a finger on the pulse of how the regulatory landscape, evolves. All of that stuff is like a given. And that's, what, most projects will probably are doing and will continue to do. But I think that, in terms of competitiveness, the biggest advantage that we have is, stability. And I'm not just speaking from like a technology perspective, but from an organizational perspective as well.
Yeah.
Because we do have backing from one of the biggest conglomerates in Korea, if not the world. I think and especially since this industry is so volatile and and is affected by market conditions, much more so than any other industry, I think that organizational stability is super important. So we're a team that won't be going anywhere.
Yeah, that's good to hear. All right, John. Yeah. That's pretty much the end of the Discord section, community section. So just before we end, do you have any last words for your listeners?
Well, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening. I'm sure it was the first time for a lot of you hearing about Klaytn, but I just wanted to tell you, there's a lot of exciting things happening coming up for 2023. We're one of the strongest, blockchain ecosystems in Korea, maybe if not, in all of Asia and also the rest of the world. I think there's been a lack of visibility and awareness around Klaytn because we've been focusing a lot on the Korean market, but definitely moving forward, we'll be dedicating more resources to the global side of things. So there's a lot of exciting things happening. Visit our website, follow our Twitter, and you'll see just going by our Twitter feed, we're probably one of the most active ones out there. I think we're tweeting every hour or something. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Also I wanted to touch, if you guys are looking for Klay token, you can find Klay token at bitsy.com. Thanks, John. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join our AMA. We learned a lot about Klaytn, your roadmap, and looking forward to hearing many, many more great things from you guys.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. To everyone that's listening, the AMA prize winners will be announced on Twitter and Discord within the next half an hour. If you see your name on the winners list, please message us with your details. To everyone else that's listening, thank you for coming. Please follow Klaytn and follow BTSE on Twitter to stay up to date with all our latest developments. Thank you for attending the BTSE AMA, BTSE Klaytn AMA, and we look forward to seeing you on BTSE. For more details on how to join BTSE, please visit www.bitsy.com or download our BTSE mobile app on the Google Play Store or Android. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for joining in on this AMA. We look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Thanks, John.
Don't miss out on the latest updates and insights from BTSE. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on other social media platforms. Find the links in the description box below and stay connected with us today.